spend that time myself since I'm not that or kick me if I go over. Good evening, everybody. I'm Todd Leras, and I'm a candidate for Sacramento County District Attorney. I've spoken to the club once before. I've spoken to other clubs. I am going to be glancing down occasionally to take a look at the clock. I can tell you the one thing that I want to do, I want to try and make my case a little bit for why I want to be the top criminal law lawyer in Sacramento County, which is what the DA does. But I'm going to be brief about that because more important, I wanted to talk to you about who I am, why I'm a Democrat, and why I'm in the race. And then I want to leave a little bit of time with those three lofty goals already in mind to maybe take a question. So you can ask some questions or a question of me. Let me tell you first of all about who I am, because it relates to the fact of what I am standing in front of you, which is I'm the underdog. I mean, clearly, I am the underdog in this race. I got in this race late. I'm running an uphill battle, and there's a very good reason why I got in this race late. That's who I am, and I wanted to talk to you about it. And that is, I grew up in Sonoma County over in Santa Rosa, for those of you who know the area. And I grew up in a very poor family. We were on welfare when I was growing up most of the time. My mother was a single mother raising two children after a divorce. She had two children by the time she was 20. I was the second. And quite frankly, she dropped out of high school and didn't have much education. And here I stand in front of you as an experienced lawyer who spent time, not just 13 years in the DA's office as prosecutor, but 5 years in the U.S. Attorney's Office working, enforcing criminal law in federal court. What does that say to you? That means something. That's what I'm talking about why I'm a Democrat. I'm part of the American dream. My grandparents were Greek immigrants who spoke very little English, but the one thing that they talked about nonstop, almost to the point of wanting to kill you, is about what a great country this is, and what a great dream the American dream is. And I heard that at every meal, every day, and it was always about that dirty guy Nixon. Now we didn't want to help the little guy, right? And the great sainted Roosevelt and the sainted Kennedy. That was the environment that I grew up in. But even more important than that, as I got older, and I realized, and I sat in those lines as my mother was paying for our groceries with food stamps, because frequently she was out of work. She'd work as a maid in hotels, or she'd work odd jobs. When she was paying, I'd see how people looked at us, as if it was my fault, right? As if I had something to feel guilty about for being a second grader whose mother was paying with food stamps. And I thought, no, I didn't do anything. And then as I grew, and I realized, look, our party is the party of opportunity. And I can say, Pell Grants, I benefited from them. Governor Pat Brown and the University of California, thank God, the community college system. I went to community college. I went to the University of California, Davis. And then I had the chance, virtually free, to go to one of the best law schools in the country, the University of California, Berkeley. And I wanted to give back. I wanted to give back. And that's why I was a prosecutor for so long. Now, I had to leave my job as a U.S. attorney because they don't allow you to. The other two candidates in the race can keep their jobs and stay in place. I couldn't. It's worth it. But then I said, I'm going to tell you why I got in the race late. Let me tell you why I got in the race late. It's about a year ago right now that I sat down and had a frank conversation with my mother where she told me she'd just gone to the doctor and they said 6 months to a year. And it turned out to be 6 months, almost to the day when she said that. She died on July 31st. Now, I wanted to get in this race earlier. I wanted to pursue things earlier. But I want you to know something about her. She worked under the table, as so many people who can barely make it do. She had no resources except right here, okay? And anything that we as Democrats would give to people. She worked, but she did it secretly. And then the company went out of business and there was no one there to give her anything. And about 9 months ago, I got a call where she was on the verge of homelessness. And I'm going to tell you this because that's who I am. And I'm trying to give you the background of what kind of person I am so that you'll know that I would have done anything for her. And more important than any political position, than being DA, than any accolade, the only thing I can think of that I would say is more important is my wife and my kids. I made a choice that I wasn't going to get in until I knew what she was going to need. Okay? So I got in late. I'm in now, and I'm all in. And I said I'm the underdog. Now, one quick thing I want to say about myself, I'm almost 5 minutes in, is this. You listen to my name and you go, Todd. Oh, Todd. It sounds awful. I sound like the guy who stood you up for squash, right? Or the one who beat you on the paddles at the fraternity or sorority. That's not me, okay? I'm named after Todd Road in Santa Rosa. If you've ever gone by there, my mom liked the sound of it. My older sister, Tammy Lynn, is named after Tammy Wynette and Loretta Lynn. Okay? This is who I am. And I'm telling you, I just thank God every day that she didn't go with her first name, thinking I'm not standing here saying, hi, I'm Willie Nelson Leras, and I'm running for DA. With that being said, I want to tell you why I am running for DA, why it's important. I was in that office. I was a supervisor in that office. I was in homicides in that office. I see some colleagues who I've talked to about that office, and anyone who's worked in the DA's office can tell you the culture there needs to change. After 20 years, I'm not even talking about policy, I'm talking about the culture. That criticism is viewed as disloyalty, and disloyalty is the greatest sin. And so right now, the biggest risk you run, and just take a look, Maggie Krell and I can both say the same thing, which is we're going to defy you to go out there and find a group of people who supports either one of us for this position in the DA's office. Maybe you'll have a straggler or two whose career is over, okay? But you're not going to get anybody who is actually active. And so many of them come to me and say, Todd, you know what? I'm 100% behind you, but I can't go public. And the reason I can't go public is because I know if you win, you're not going to do anything. You're going to forgive me. That's who you are. I know you. But I know if the other side wins, if the chosen successor wins, I'm going to be the most talented lawyer for the rest of my career at traffic court. Okay? And nobody wants to do that. And that's the primary thing that I want to change about the DA's office. I want the conversation to go from the bottom up. I want people to say, Todd, this isn't working. Not to criticize just to criticize to improve the performance of the office, to make it better. Now, one last thing that I would say is this. Some people have said, well, you've articulated some progressive policies. Yes, I have, for people who deserve it, because I think I'm old enough, wise enough, and experienced enough to know that some people deserve compassion. But God forbid you if you're looking at me and you've hurt a kid, or you shot somebody, or you're a violent criminal. I am a Cro-Magnon, okay? You check my DNA, and you see it's not Homo sapiens sapiens, it's Homo sapiens prosecutorius, okay? I drag my knuckles and I want to put you away forever if you're deserving of it. Well, with that being said, we have to change our policy, and we have to do brighter things for people who deserve a chance to be smarter with justice. I realize I've got 2 minutes left, probably have time for one question. Anyone want to ask a question?
Rick, what's your position on the death penalty, and you can elaborate on how it applies, etc.
Thank you. The death penalty is something that's come up repeatedly, and from the very beginning, I've told you what I felt about it, which is this. I am not allowed to choose which laws I like or don't. I have to enforce the law as it is. I said the same thing with Brownie Mary with marijuana, medical marijuana. In front of Anne Marie Schubert, I said that. I will enforce the law. The death penalty is the law. However, one of the people who I talked to extensively in this case, and he says, you can list me as a supporter, Don Heller, a moderate Republican, yes, he still exists, and thank God they're out there, who wrote the death penalty law. And he said, Todd, when I wrote it, I had in mind the Manson family. Now we have 770 people on death row. We've got a backlog where if we started, if somehow we started doing this, we'd never get through it. The leading cause of death on death row is old age. So the answer to that is, my personal feeling is the death penalty is unfair. The death penalty is enforced in an unfair manner, and I don't like it. However, as long as it remains the law, I will give it consideration, and I will agonize over every decision. The decision is ultimately the DA's, by the way. It's not the judges. It's certainly not the defense attorneys. The DA makes the decision. And I would agonize, but I would also say it's not worth the cost. And if I were called over to the legislature, I'd tell them. That's what I've heard repeatedly. It's not worth the cost, and it doesn't give what was promised. I think we're done.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.